Imagine you have everything. A private jet on standby, a penthouse overlooking Central Park, and more money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes. Then in the blink of an eye, the handcrafted Italian suit is replaced by a scratchy orange jumpsuit. The steak medium rare is swapped for a plastic tray of mystery meat. For most people, prison is the end of the line. But when you are worth 10 figures, the rules change. Or do they? Today we are pulling back the heavy steel curtain to see exactly what happens when the world's most powerful people end up behind bars. We are going inside the cells of the ultra-wealthy to see if money can really buy comfort in a place designed to take everything away from you. When a billionaire enters the federal system, the transition is a psychological car crash. These are individuals who have spent decades giving orders, not taking them. In the outside world, their time is measured in thousands of dollars per minute. In maximum security, time is a weapon used against them. The first thing a billionaire realizes is that their net worth means absolutely nothing to the steel bars. However, it means everything to the people inside those bars. The intake process is the great equalizer. You are stripped, searched, and deloused, just like anyone else. This is the most dangerous moment. The guards know who you are. The other inmates definitely know who you are. In a maximum security environment, a billionaire is a walking lottery ticket or a trophy. This is why the Bureau of Prisons faces a massive headache the moment a tycoon is sentenced. They have to decide, do we put this person in general population where they might get extorted? Or do we put them in solitary for their own protection? Let's talk about the myth of the country club prison. You've heard the stories about Martha Stewart or certain Wall Street guys going to places with tennis courts. Those are minimum security camps. But we are talking about maximum security. When a billionaire is accused of massive fraud involving national security, or if they are high profile enough to be a target, they don't go to the camp. They go to the big house. In these facilities, there are no tennis courts. There is concrete, noise, and the constant threat of conflict. One of the biggest shocks for a billionaire is the loss of privacy. In the corporate world, they have assistants who filter every call and security teams that sweep rooms for bugs. In prison, you share a toilet with another man. You shower in a communal room. For someone who has lived a life of ultimate luxury, the sensory overload of a maximum security wing is traumatizing. The constant clanging of metal, the shouting, the smell of industrial cleaner mixed with human sweat. It is a world where you have zero control. But here's where it gets interesting. While the prison system claims to treat everyone equally, billionaires have a secret weapon: their legal teams. A normal inmate has a public defender or a local lawyer. A billionaire has a literal army of the best legal minds on the planet. This changes the prison experience fundamentally. While other inmates are sitting in their cells, the billionaire is constantly being pulled out for legal visits. These visits happen in private rooms. They get to wear their own clothes sometimes during depositions, and they get to eat better food brought in by their legal counsel during long meetings. It is a loophole that allows them to escape the reality of the cell block for hours at a day. Then there is the issue of the commissary. The commissary is the only store. You use your account to buy snacks, soap, and stamps. For a billionaire, the legal limit on what you can spend each month is pocket change. They will max out their account on day one. But they can't just buy things for themselves. If a billionaire buys a hoard of honey buns and sneakers, they become a target for extortion. Smart billionaires learn the art of the subtle payout. They don't brag about their wealth. Instead, they might use their outside connections to put money on the accounts of the most influential inmates in the block. It's not a bribe officially, but it ensures that nobody messes with them. This creates a shadow economy, where the billionaire is still the CEO, just of a much smaller and more dangerous company. Communication with the outside world is another area where the wealthy have an edge. While they are restricted to the same phone minutes as everyone else, their families can hire people to manage their affairs, using coded language to give stock tips or management orders to their subordinates on the outside. Imagine a guy standing in line behind a massive inmate, waiting to use a greasy phone to authorize a $50 million wire transfer. It sounds like a movie, but it has happened. What about medical care? In maximum security, the medical wing is notorious for being basic. If you have a toothache, you wait. If you have a cold, you get ibuprofen. But a billionaire's legal team can file emergency motions for private doctors to visit or for the inmate to be transferred to a hospital for specialized care. They can argue that the prison facilities are inadequate for their clients' specific health needs. This creates a two-tiered system where the wealthy can effectively buy their way out of the harshest conditions of the infirmary. The psychological toll, however, is something money cannot fix. Many billionaires are narcissists by nature. They thrive on admiration and power. In prison, the guards don't admire you. In fact, many guards take a specific pleasure in humbling someone who used to look down on people like them. There is a specific type of correctional officer who loves to make a former CEO scrub a floor or stand in the rain. It's a power dynamic flip that can lead to total mental breakdowns. We have seen high-profile inmates go from confident power brokers to shells of themselves in a matter of months. Let's look at the special housing units, or the SHU. Often, because a billionaire is such a high-profile target for kidnapping or extortion within the walls, they are placed in protective custody. This sounds better, but it's often worse. Protective custody frequently means 23 hours a day in a small cell alone. No sunlight, no interaction, no stimulation. For a mind that is used to processing complex financial data and making 1,000 decisions a day, the silence of the SHU is a different kind of torture. It is where the reality of their situation finally sinks in. You can have $1 billion in the bank, but if you can't spend it to buy a breath of fresh air, is it really worth anything? In some international cases, we see even weirder scenarios. In certain countries, billionaires have been known to literally renovate their own prison cells. There are stories from places like South America or Eastern Europe where wealthy inmates have paid for high-speed internet, premium bedding, and even private chefs within the prison walls. While this is less common in the United States federal system, the influence of money still permeates through the cracks. It might be a guard who is willing to look the other way while a cell phone is smuggled in, or a warden who grants extra visitation privileges in exchange for a donation to a specific charity. The billionaire's row in prison isn't a specific location. It's a state of mind and a set of maneuvers. They have to navigate the social hierarchy of people who have nothing to lose. For a billionaire, their life is their asset. For a lifer in a maximum security prison, their reputation is their asset. When those two worlds collide, the lifer usually wins. This is why you see billionaires becoming very religious or very philanthropic while inside. They are trying to build a new brand that protects them. Let's talk about the food. Usually prison food is designed for caloric intake, not flavor. It's a lot of soy-based protein and starch. For someone used to Michelin-starred dining, this is a physical shock. Many wealthy inmates use their commissary funds to shop for ingredients and pay other inmates who are skilled at prison cooking to prepare meals for them using an induction plate or a hot water tap. This creates a weird social dynamic where the billionaire is the patron and the talented inmate is the private chef. It provides a sense of normalcy, but it's a fragile piece. One of the most fascinating aspects is the post-prison career planning. Most billionaires aren't in for life. They are looking at 5, 10, maybe 20 years. Since they are often older, they spend their time focusing on how to hidden their assets, so that when they get out, they can return to luxury. They spend hours in the law library, not just working on their own cases, but researching ways to protect their remaining wealth from civil lawsuits and government seizures. They treat the law library like their new boardroom. The interaction with regular inmates is a constant tightrope walk. A billionaire has to be careful not to seem too weak, but also not too arrogant. If they act like they are better than everyone, they get a target on their back. If they act too scared, they get exploited. The most successful wealthy inmates are the ones who learn to be ghosts. They blend in, speak quietly, and use their resources to help others in small, untraceable ways. They might pay for an inmate's daughter's textbooks or help someone get a better lawyer. This buys them street credit that is more valuable than any currency. But what happens when the money runs out, or when the government freezes every single asset? We have seen paper billionaires who enter prison and realize they have nothing. Their friends disappear, their families move on, and their legal teams stop answering calls when the retainers aren't paid. This is the ultimate fall. To go from the top of the world to the bottom of the prison hierarchy is a journey very few survive intact. Without the protection that money buys, these individuals often become the most vulnerable people in the facility. There is also the fame factor. In a maximum security prison, everyone is looking for a way to make their mark. Ending up in a fight with a famous billionaire is a way for a low-level inmate to gain instant notoriety. This is why the prison staff often keeps these high-profile people under constant surveillance. It isn't just to keep them from escaping. It's to keep them from being part of a headline-grabbing incident. The paperwork involved in a billionaire getting injured on a warden's watch is a nightmare no official wants to deal with. Let's dive deeper into the social structures. Gangs often run the daily life of the yard. A billionaire doesn't fit into a traditional gang structure. They aren't going to join a group for protection in the same way a 20-year-old would. Instead, they often become advisors. We've heard reports of wealthy white-collar criminals giving financial advice or tax help to the leaders of prison organizations. This consulting work provides them with a level of protection that no amount of physical strength could. Knowledge is power, even in a place where violence is the primary language. The visitations are perhaps the most telling part of the experience. When a billionaire's family visits, it's a spectacle. They arrive in armored SUVs, surrounded by security, even in the parking lot, speaking through plexiglass or across a small table. For the billionaire, seeing their family in that environment is a reminder of everything they've lost. For the other inmates, seeing the billionaire's family is a reminder of the wealth gap that exists even in the great equalizer. It can breed intense resentment. Consider the physical environment again. Most maximum security prisons are decades old. They are cold in the winter and stifling in the summer. They are built with materials meant to be indestructible, not comfortable. A billionaire who is used to climate-controlled environments and soft textures finds their skin and lungs reacting to the harshness of the air and the water. The physical aging process seems to accelerate for these people. You can see it in their mugshots over the years. The hair goes gray faster, the skin sags. No amount of money can buy back the youth that prison steals. But what about the fixers? In every prison there are people who can get things. For a price, you can get a steak, a smartphone, or even a bottle of high-end scotch. For a billionaire, these prices are inflated. A smartphone that might cost a regular inmate a few $100s will cost a billionaire. They are taxed by the underground economy. And while they can afford it, every transaction is a risk. If they get caught with a phone, they don't just lose the phone, they lose their good time and might end up in the SHU, which is a place money can't fix. The irony of the billionaire in prison is that they are surrounded by people who are there because they tried to get even a fraction of the wealth the billionaire had. The hustle is the same, just at different scales. A petty thief and a billionaire fraudster are both in the same cell, but one is seen as a predator, and the other often as a victim of the system, depending on who you talk to. In the yard, though, a thief is a thief. The man who stole a car and the man who stole $1 billion through a Ponzi scheme are both just numbers on a jumper. We also have to look at the psychological warfare. The loss of status is the biggest punishment. They will purposefully assign them the most menial tasks. You might see a man who once controlled global shipping routes being assigned to the pots and pans detail in the kitchen, scrubbing grease for hours. This isn't just work. It's a calculated effort to break their ego. Some handle it with dignity, seeing it as a way to pass the time. Others refuse, leading to disciplinary actions that make their stay much harder. What happens during a lockdown? In maximum security, lockdowns are common. A fight breaks out and everyone is confined to their cells for days or weeks. For the billionaire, this is the ultimate loss of control. No lawyers, no calls, no special food, just a bag meal pushed through a slot, and the four walls. It's during these times that the reality of their new life truly hits. They aren't a CEO anymore. They aren't a titan of industry. They are a body in a box, waiting for a guard to tell them when they can see the sun. The exit strategy is always on their mind. Unlike many inmates who struggle to find a job or a place to live upon release, the billionaire is returning to a life of hidden assets, offshore accounts, and loyal associates. Their time in prison is often viewed by them as a sabbatical or a temporary setback. This mindset helps them survive, but it also means they rarely learn the traditional lessons of rehabilitation. They aren't looking to change. They are looking to resume. However, the world they return to isn't always the one they left. The billionaire label might still be there, but the power has shifted. In the time they were away, new technologies emerged, markets changed, and their name became synonymous with the crime they committed. The prison experience stays with them. We've seen former wealthy inmates, years after release, still sleep on top of their covers or can't stand being in rooms without a clear exit. The metal of the maximum security prison leaves a permanent mark on the soul. Let's talk about the brand. For a billionaire, their name is their brand. When they go to prison, that brand is tarnished. Some try to fix this by writing books or giving interviews from prison. They try to frame themselves as a political prisoner or a victim of overzealous prosecutors. This is a strategic move to ensure that when they get out, they can still engage in business. They use their time to craft a narrative. In prison, they are not just inmates. They are historians of their own lives. Carefully editing the story, they will tell the world. The guard's perspective is also vital. A guard in a maximum security prison makes a modest salary. They see a billionaire, who even in prison lives a life of relative ease through legal maneuvers and commissary wealth. This creates a friction. Some guards are professional, but others feel a sense of justice in making the billionaire's life difficult. They will conduct random cell searches more often or be slower to respond to their requests. It is a subtle daily grind of friction that reminds the billionaire that in this world, they are at the bottom of the food chain. There's a specific phenomenon called the billionaire's boredom. Most people in prison are focused on survival or their next meal. The billionaire, who has a high-functioning brain, often suffers from an agonizing lack of stimulation. They will read every book in the library, sometimes twice. They will start teaching classes to other inmates on economics or business, not out of the goodness of their heart, but just to have someone to talk to who understands their level of thinking. This intellectual isolation is one of the most cited complaints from wealthy inmates who have served time. In the end, how a billionaire is handled in a maximum security prison is a mix of strict protocol. The system tries to be blind to the dollar signs, but the people within the system, the guards, the inmates, the lawyers, never are. Money can't open the front gate, but it can certainly buy a softer pillow, a better lawyer, and a layer of protection that the average inmate could only dream of. But as many of them find out, no matter how much you have in the bank, the sound of the cell door locking is the same for a billionaire as it is for everyone else. It is a sound that signifies the end of freedom and the beginning of a long, cold reality where you are no longer the boss. As we look at the high-profile cases of the last few years, we see this playing out in real time. Whether it's a tech mogul or a hedge fund manager, the pattern is the same. The shock of entry, the legal war of attrition, the attempt to build a shadow empire inside, and the eventual realization that time is the one thing they can't buy back. Prison is designed to take your time and your identity. Even for those with $1 billion, the house always wins. The walls remain just as thick, the bars just as cold, and the days just as long. The story of the billionaire in prison is a reminder that while society is often divided by wealth, the law, at its most extreme point, the maximum security cell strives for a grim kind of equality. It is a place where your net worth is reduced to a number on a jumpsuit, and your legacy is limited to the stories told in the yard. In that silence, the billionaire is just another inmate, waiting for the whistle to blow, marking the end of another day in a world that money forgot. They might have the best lawyers in the world, but at 3 in the morning, when the lights are low, and the prison is whistling with the sound of 1,000 sleeping men, they are just another person staring at a concrete ceiling, wondering how it all went so wrong. The transition back to society is the final act. For the billionaire, it's not about finding a job, it's about reclaiming a throne. But the throne is often dusty, and the people who sat in it while they were gone aren't always ready to give it back. The prison experience becomes a shadow that follows them into every boardroom and every gala. They are no longer just a billionaire. They are a billionaire who went to the big house. That is a label that even $1 billion can't wash away. If you ever find yourself wondering if the rich get away with everything, just remember the image of a tycoon sitting on a thin mattress, eating a lukewarm meal from a plastic tray while a guard shouts at them to stand for the count. In those moments, the money doesn't matter. The power doesn't matter. All that matters is the count, the clock, and the long, slow wait for a freedom that no amount of gold can speed up. This is the reality of the ultra-wealthy behind bars. A world of private legal battles fought within a public cage, where the only true currency is patience and the only real goal is to survive the night. The system is constantly evolving to deal with these high-stakes inmates. New regulations are often put in place specifically because of the ways wealthy inmates have found to manipulate the system. Whether it's tighter control over legal mail or more scrutiny on commissary deposits, the billionaire loopholes are slowly being closed. This makes the modern experience for a wealthy inmate more restricted than it was 20 or 30 years ago. The Club Fed era is largely over, replaced by a system that is increasingly wary of the influence of the 1% within its walls. In the final analysis, The Billionaire in Prison is a study in human resilience and the limits of power. It shows us that while money can change the scenery, it can't change the fundamental nature of the punishment. The loss of liberty is a universal weight. Whether you are worth nothing or everything, the weight of those years spent behind a fence is the same. It is a debt paid in the only thing we all have in equal measure: time. And once that time is spent, no amount of interest can bring it back. The billionaire's story in prison isn't just about wealth. It's about the universal human struggle to maintain dignity in a place designed to strip it away, and the harsh truth that in the end we all stand alone before the bar of justice. So next time you see a headline about a mogul being sentenced, don't just think about the money they lost. Think about the silence of the cell, the taste of the prison water, and the reality of a world where their name means nothing to the man holding the keys. That is the true handle of a billionaire in maximum security. A reality check that costs everything they ever worked for. And a lesson that some things, like freedom and reputation, are truly priceless. The walls don't care about your bank balance, and the iron doesn't bend for your status. In the deep heart of the maximum security system, everyone is just another soul waiting for the sun to rise.